Alright, today we're going to Banh Mi Factory in Zillmere, the original one. It's always busy. So we're parked about, 100 metres down the road. Intrigued to know if it lives up to the hype. It's probably the most overhyped, well, I won't say overhyped yet. It's the most hyped up Banh Mi shop in Brisbane. Whether or not it lives up to that hype, we're about to find out.
A 4.8 is incredible, so it better be good.
Big strike one doesn't even fit our review. They don't even have a crispy pork belly, so.
That's so rubbish.
All right, let's roll.
So we did end up bringing a blanket, but it's not required today because the tables and chairs are plenty free. There is also something about the way that we score that we want to change, but we'll tell you more about that later.
So before we even start, there was no option for crispy pork belly, which I feel like immediately brings the score down. It's not a promising start. It's chilly.
That looks pretty good. That looks very full.
Lemongrass pork.
You can get normal pork.
So it says that's the pork.
That's
Is
the only
lemongrass.
pork option is lemongrass.
Yeah.
So there's not even like a classic pork.
No.
Alright, first bites of our disappointing lemongrass pork. One thing I like is they cut all the way to the edge of the bread. So the first bite you actually get meat and veggies in it.
Right.
You know, like normally the first bite you just get like a whole mouthful of bread.
Yeah.
Now that we've taken the first couple of bites, the first thing that we always rate is the bread. Do you have any thoughts?
It's very crispy. At the moment I'm feeling a 3. What do you reckon?
It's crispy, but it's like it's flaky, but it's really easy to bite for me.
Right.
I really struggle with crunchy bread, like it scratches my mouth, so it's not so bad.
So what would you give it?
Probably a 4.
There's just something about, like, it doesn't taste, I don't know, stale or something. There's something about the bread itself is just like, yeah, I'm not sure about it.
Okay.
I'm sticking with 3.
Well,
So we
have
gotta come
agree.
to unanimous consent, okay?
I'm not like that gung-ho about it, like I'm not ready to come to bat for it.
Right.
So I feel like if you really have issues with it, then a 3 is fine.
Yeah, okay. You ready to score the meat? Mm-hmm. It's no crispy pork belly. Lemongrass flavour's nice, but the meat's quite dry and a little bit tough, I'd say. The lemongrass flavour on its own is nice, but then in the context of the whole banh mi, you can't really taste that lemongrass flavour that strongly. A banh mi's quite reliant on the pork, like the fat from the pork, in order to balance the crispy bread and the fresh veggies, but I just don't feel like it has that.
I think the fact that they're not doing a crispy pork, I feel like that would be the most asked for item. And while this lemongrass pork is nice, there was no crispy pork, and so it kind of debunks the whole video in a way. So the fact that there's no crispy pork, is it a 1? Because we've said we're going to rate crispy pork belly. We can't rate this in the same thing. So it's got to be the lowest score that we can give it, which is a 1.
I think at most it would have gotten a 2 anyway.
Well, we will never know.
Based on the meat itself, it would get a 2. Alright.
So next is the veggies. I think some people don't really care about the veggies, but for me it's like a very important part.
Yeah, agreed.
It adds such a freshness to a banh mi, so just as important, if not maybe more important than the meat sometimes. That being said, there's a nice amount of carrot down the bottom, because I feel like often places will just like throw a bunch of carrot on.
Yeah.
But I'm quite enjoying how much cucumber there is, how much coriander there is. There's a decent amount of coriander.
Yeah.
Veggies for me are pretty good. They're probably a little bit like they've just been sitting there. I feel like they've been sitting there since yesterday.
Yeah, they probably haven't been, but they definitely...
They've got like a real floppy sort of vibe.
They've definitely, the cucumbers like floppy and like, I don't know if there's too much dressing or whatever else, but they're not crisp.
So there's a nice amount. There's heaps there. There's the amount that I would want there, but they're drenched. And so they're not as crisp as I would like them.
Not as crisp as they need to be. 3?
Well, I was thinking 2. Like, just having the right amount isn't enough to...
Yeah.
You know, they've got to be fresh. They've got to be crunchy.
Oh, you went with me on the bread, so I'll go with you on the veggies.
2.
2.
Okay, so sauce.
Sorry, I'm just trying to tell you what this is. I think it's like a garlic mayo sort of thing, which, like, on its own is fine. Like, it's a nice thing. In the context of this, I think it's wrong. It has completely drenched all the veggies. Is there pate on that side? There is some pate on this side. There's too much of the garlic sauce. So the pate is nice, but I didn't actually even notice until just now there was pate on it, because the overwhelming sauce is this garlic mayo aioli sort of thing they've got going on. It drenches everything. Drenches the bread. Maybe that's why the lemongrass flavour is not that pronounced. 2.
While I can't really comment on the flavour of the sauce, like I feel fine with it. I definitely feel like there's too much, and it's soaking all those veggies. If a 2's what you feel is appropriate, then we'll go with the 2.
Mayo is a thing that is in banh mi. Like, when I make banh mi, I put mayo on it. But there's something about that garlic one. Just something. Maybe it's the way that it's layered. Like, maybe if the mayo was down first, and then the meat, and then the veggies on the other side, it wouldn't like permeate it all so much, but just sort of overwhelming.
So we've had to change something. We realised in our scoring the price it was perhaps a little bit flawed. While we felt it was appropriate, like, now that we've done a couple reviews, we want to make sure that we're reviewing as best we can. So we're changing the way that we're scoring the price. I think that I'll go to the other videos and give that updated price in the description of them based on the new price, because I can't change the video, but I can put the new information in the description.
I think what we found between the first and the second, the price had far too much of an influence on the score. Like, we felt like the second banh mi we had was much better than the first, but then because of the price, they ended up quite close together. So we've decided to change a banh mi that costs $6 or $7. That will be 5 stars. Banh mi that's $8 to $9, 4 stars. 10 to 11, 3 stars. 12 to 13, 2 stars. 14, 15, 1 star.
I think also, like, there's going to be times where in the 50 cents, so it's $7.50. If it has a 7 at the front of it, it'll be rated according to that.
Right.
And look, we reserve the right to change this in the future because...
We're flippant.
Yeah. But I think for now, just for the sake of...
Simplicity.
Yeah.
Feels wrong. As a mathematician, it feels wrong.
It's got to be simple. It has to be.
Whatever the first number in the price is. After that diatribe spiel, we move on to the price of this one. $9.50 each. That puts them in the 4-star category, which is fair, right?
I think $9.50 is totally appropriate.
Yeah.
To pay for a banh mi. Whether or not this one's worth $9.50, that's a whole nother issue. But to pay $9.50 for banh mi, I think is appropriate.
Bread gets a 3, meat gets a 2, veggies get a 2, sauce gets a 2, price gets a 4. 13 out of 25, 2.6.
2.6 out of 5.
We suspected that these guys were going to be overhyped. Whenever you look up Banh Mi in Brisbane, it's like, oh, Banh Mi Factory, Banh Mi Factory. And
it's always
like,
the first listing based on where we are.
I think it's more a case of like that's their only people's only exposure to banh mi rather than it actually being a good one.
And I think also they've got the location down. Like, we're in an area where there's a lot of like industrial works going on, So they've picked an area where people just want to go and get something for lunch and they want to spend $10 on their lunch. And I think that's driving their traffic. The important thing that we need to take away from this is like they didn't do crispy pork, and we really want to be putting together a definitive list of the best banh mi in Brisbane with crispy pork because that is our favourite.
It is the best one.
And so this is lemongrass pork, and we've rated it based on the fact that we've had it now. You tell us, like, is it worthy of being in there, or should it just be disqualified?
Before we went out today, I was like, Alex, do we need to go to this one's rated quite highly, right? I was saying, Alex, do we need to go to like a lower rated banh mi shop just to provide a bit of context to the other reviews? But I think inadvertently we've done that today. Alright, I'm going to finish the rest of Alex's banh mi. Until next time.
No, you're not having
it. So after a bit of Instagram perusal, turns out they used to do a crispy pork. Pork belly's more expensive than other cuts, so they've obviously just discontinued. I'd rather pay an extra, often places will charge more for a crispy pork. I'd rather pay an extra $1 for a crispy pork than not have it at all.